This is for a 10th, 11th grade classroom, U.S. history, also on the civil rights movement. So before they would have seen this in this lesson, they would have learned a little bit about the introduction to civil rights. They wouldn't have gotten into anything like Martin Luther King yet. It would have more focused on the 1950s rather than the protests and marches. So this is more like an introduction, I'd say. Some of the objectives that I had were that they would be able to analyze the portrayal of the people in the cartoon and its possible public reception. So I want them to be able to analyze drawings, primary sources, things like that. I want them to be able to evaluate the artist's point of view of the civil rights movement and the struggle for equal education, and also to assess the historical accuracy of the cartoon. So they kind of know a little bit of background of U.S. history and race relations at this time, and they need to be able to refer to that when they're looking at this. So we start out the class and I would say, okay, showing this picture, obviously it's kind of a stirring photo. Give them a couple minutes to look at it and what's happening in this cartoon. If you guys have any idea, just describe it for me in a sentence. Angry mob, and they seem to be chasing two little schoolboys. So who do you think are the key figures that the artist is trying to get you to focus on?
Two schools.
Yeah, I would say the two schoolboys just because they're bigger and that's where I look right away. So what do you notice about the two boys running? Like, tell me a little bit about them. Characteristics. They look scared.
They're dressed up.
They're dressed up, yeah.
Obviously they're African American.
Yes. Yep, that's big. And compared to the mob,
Yes.
they're obviously black and the mob is white. So what other objects in this cartoon are important? You mentioned that they're schoolboys. So they're obviously carrying. So what else do you see? Characteristics in the mob, the setting that they're in. Anything is important, just whatever you guys see.
Countryside.
Yep. It's rural.
They have what look like bats kind of in their hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've got some, where's the pitchfork in the background? Just any kind of object. So, based on what we just said, what conclusions can you make about the situation at the time this cartoon was created? What would prompt the author to draw a cartoon like this and publish it?
Could be descriptive of white attitudes at the time.
Kind of show a bunch of like people angry that a couple little black boys would want to go to school with their kids, maybe like if they look dressed
Yeah.
up, they just came from school, and it's kind of unreasonable anger for that.
Right.
Maybe even poking fun at how like the racism is in society as they're running after two little schoolboys who are going to threat somebody.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that the author's trying to say with this one cartoon. And I think you guys kind of touched on it in describing the crowd. They're, what JD said, they're a little bit ridiculous because they're chasing these little boys and they're all of these people. What other things do you see about the crowd that could be indicative of a certain type of culture in America? Are they from the West Coast, the East Coast, the North, the South?
I'll just say the South because it looks like there's a couple cowboy hats in there.
Yeah.
Overalls.
I mean, the one good thing about stereotypes is they're used in political cartoons and they are definitely useful. I see suspenders. See some of those hats. Now, I'm going to say my opinion is that it's South, but I don't know if it really matters because it's in America and it's white people versus black people, which is the main thing. So then next, I would, there are more questions that I have for the students and everything like that, but then I wanted to show them this picture, which is an actual photograph taken in America. So after talking about that, what are the similarities and differences between the cartoon and this image? The fictional cartoon and this real photograph that you guys see?
The numbers, there's only one compared to the other two.
Yeah, that's a big one, and I think, would you guys agree the focus of this photo is the black girl? Or at least that's who you look at first, and then you can see a lot of other things.
I'm kind of blind right now, but my eyes went right away to, is she angry? The girl?
Yeah.
My eyes went to her
Yes.
right away, like random anger.
Yeah, this is a lady who actually wrote a book about this experience and how she ended up living down the street from that girl and they became friends. So, side note, but so which do you think exemplifies the time period more, this photo or the cartoon? Of your knowledge of the 1950s and just your knowledge of the 60s, you know, just what you guys have learned in the past. And
One thing that's interesting here is the anger. The person we see first is a woman, where in the cartoon it's like men all up front.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I think looking at it, and I look at it very closely, I think there's maybe one woman that I could see in the cartoon. And this is, it's a woman, that's who you notice. So do you think, I mean, the connections between the two are obvious, black versus white. What's that woman carrying? So she's probably going to school, right? So then I would tell the students, list several ways in which black students were kept from attending white schools after the Brown v. Board of Education. So do you guys know of any?
No.
Do you know of any ways that black students were kept from attending white schools, even after Brown versus Board of Education?
It would be like city, towns, and then people that would like block the entrance as well.
Yeah, physically block the entrance. Anybody else?
I think just anger direct from at them all day long, and I can't seem to go anymore.
Yep. Physical, more like psychological abuse, verbal abuse.
Threatening at home.
Yes, exactly. I think this is interesting because they're two very similar situations. This is more toned down, but at the same time, I feel like her anger is just as intense. So based on the photograph, do you guys think the political cartoon was exaggerated?
I don't think so, because there was physical violence in the South at that point.
Yeah.
And from this photo, we can see that there were a mob of white people kind of abusing a single black female.
Yeah. So what do you think the author for the political cartoon was aiming at? What do you think she wanted her audience to think when they saw this cartoon? That, oh, there's some more black kids, shouldn't have been trying to get into that school? Or do you think she was?
I think she was speaking out against it because she's not doing anything wrong, she's just walking to school, and then, so that anger looked completely ridiculous. I mean, maybe not at the time, but.
Right. Yep. Obviously trying to gain some sympathy. Do you think it was, or why do you think the author chose to have two little boys rather than a woman or two high school boys? Or do you think there was a reason, or was it simply that she had an idea and just drew a picture?
Women's rights were slower growing at that time.
Yeah.
So it would have had less sympathy, I guess.
Yep. And there's also just like an image of two children that elicits a little bit more of a response than full-grown teenage African-American boys, you know. Okay, that's all I had, and then there's a couple extension activities that I would have them do. Find their own photographs from the time and tell just like a brief paragraph of how they fit in, but this lesson was mostly like, it was half trying to get them to think about the time period and half trying to get them to analyze cartoons and the validity of cartoons, and then also photographs and why they're important